Welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at just how many hours do teachers actually spend in the classroom over the course of a working week, and then obviously looking at over the course of a school year, just how much time they spend. Because for some of you guys going to teaching, you might think that this is great, I want to spend as much time as I can in the classroom teaching the children, that's where I want to be. Others of you might be thinking, actually I want to be in the classroom, but I also want to be going off and doing other things like CPD, doing some research, doing your own professional development, learning from other teachers. That's all really good too, as I've spoken about in other videos. So we're going to delve into it today and look at from when you first begin your early career teacher period and you start teaching to further on down the line, a few years in, once you've got subject leadership, just how much time out of class or in class you are going to be spending. So let's get straight into it and look at your first year. So to begin with, when you're an early career teacher, you follow the early career teacher framework. Now this is something they introduced at the start of this academic year, and it's only been going for a short time now, but it seems to be going quite well, and it generally looks at helping teachers develop a bit better and having that support around them for a little bit longer, because now their kind of early career period is over 2 years, rather than when I started it was only 1 year of support that you got. So for starters, during that time, every single teacher always gets approximately 10% of their time out of class. So in each day at school you have two sessions. You've got a morning session and you've got an afternoon session. Now we're going to talk about each of those sessions as being classed as 10% of the school day over the course of a week. So obviously you've got 10% in the morning, 10% in the afternoon, so it's 20% is one school day, 5 days, 100% being 1 week. So when I talk about having 10% of time out, that's what I mean, either one morning or one afternoon session. Now, as we were saying, every single teacher has 10% of time each week out of class in terms of their PPA. That's their planning and their assessment time, preparation time. That's where they get all their work done ready for the week ahead, the month ahead, whatever they need to do. Look at assessing the work that's already been done. They use one afternoon normally a week. Sometimes it can be in the morning, but generally it's in the afternoon to do all that. So they have one afternoon out of class every single week. Now that's something teachers are entitled to as part of being a teacher, and you should get that no matter what in your school. However, for the early career teacher period, as part of the early career teacher framework, you get an extra 10% of time out of class in your first year. So that means you'll either have an extra afternoon or you'll have a morning out of class too. Now this is absolutely invaluable for a teacher. When you're in your first year, do as much as you can in this time to go and see other teachers and see how they teach. The best way of learning, as I talked about in a previous video, which I will try and link up there, but if not, please have a look, go over, look and find it, about your early career teacher period, is to go and observe other teachers. It's the most important thing to do because it's so valuable, it's so useful. You can pick up so many tips and ideas and things to do. So go observe as many other teachers in your school, in neighbouring schools, in schools your school might be in a partnership with, in your academy. Go have a look at other teachers and see what you can do as part of that extra 10% of time out of class. Because you effectively have 1 day out of class every single week, and you need to use that to your advantage to get as much knowledge and as much learning done for yourself, as well as preparing yourself for teaching the next week. So in year one, you actually spend 20% of your teaching week out of class, which is quite a lot. When you have that over the course of the year, it's a lot of days out of class, but it's really, really useful. When you are in your second year, so this is still now your early career teacher period, it's the second year of it, however, you still get some extra time out of class. So you still have your 10%, you still have your one afternoon or one morning out of class, so your planning time, but you also get an extra 5% out of class. So that might be in an afternoon, you have half an afternoon out or half a morning out. You get that extra 5%, and again, use that as wisely as you can to go and observe other teachers to get as much learning, as much support as you can over that time. Your school, when you join it as an early career teacher, will have different ideas on what to do as part of your extra time out of class and what is the best thing for you. But if you do get asked, I'd say I want to go and observe teachers, I want to see how they teach this lesson. If you're struggling with teaching writing, go and observe some writing lessons, see how it's done, and try and copy it, because at the end of the day, all you can do is copy their ideas, see what works for you, and it might be a genius idea that you love. So your first 2 years, first year, year one, you spend 20% of time out of class. Your second year, you spend 15% of time out of class. Now, when we move on to our third year, this is where you start to become what will happen for the rest of your time as a teacher until you take on some extra duties. When you get to your third year, you're no longer an early career teacher, or it happened for me in my second year when I wasn't an NQT anymore and I'd progressed on from that. You then take on generally a subject leader role. This happens in the majority of schools, and you'll take on a role where you'll be leading a subject. So I lead geography and I lead computing because we're quite a small school, so each teacher has got more than one subject to lead, and I get some time out of class most terms to have a go at doing some work on my subject. So I'll generally get, again, my 10% planning time each week, and then once a term I'll get another 10% in 1 week to do a little bit of work on that subject, and that might be an afternoon, that might be a morning. I'll get some time out of class to have a go and look at focusing on that subject. How can I develop that subject in my school and make it even better? So you can see there that generally you do get your 10% of time out of class, but you do get a little bit there for that. Now it's really important to mention that these periods out of class are really, really useful, but they can actually be hard work. There's a saying that lots of teachers know that, or there's an idea that lots of teachers follow, that time out of class class is just not worth it as a teacher. You'll find there's very, very few teachers who are ever off ill. Now that's not because they don't get ill. They do generally have a good immune system because of all the germs that are around in a school, but it's because being out of class is actually really hard work. You have to have all your lessons prepared for a cover teacher to teach. You have to have them all set up and ready and in the right way for someone else to understand. And generally, as you're a teacher over a longer period of time, you plan your lessons in a way that kind of you know how it all works, but not everyone else might not necessarily look at it straight away. So it is hard work having cover, and it's hard work making sure everything's ready for a supply teacher to come and just get involved and teach it. Or even if it's someone in your school that can cover for you, it's not always the best idea to have time out of class if you're not prepared for it. So when you do know time out of class is coming up, be it your PPA every week, be it something like subject leadership time, but going to observe in another school or in another classroom, make sure you're ready for that and you've got your lesson prepared in a way that not only you understand it, but the person covering understands what's going on as well. Because it's really important to make sure that the quality of work is still up to scratch, that the work is following the same kind of flow as what you were doing, the same scheme, the same progression of lessons that you were working through. Otherwise, you just have kind of a wasted lesson in the middle of a unit and it really slows things down and halts progress. So as you can see there, straight away, you've got quite a bit of time out of class. Now we're going to move on to talking about how that changes as you progress through school. So as you progress and you become a more senior teacher, and this is a long way further on than what I am at the minute, but it's something that I can see other teachers do in other schools that I've noticed and other schools that I've taught to, that as you progress and you become what's called a senior leader in schools, or you're part of the senior leadership team, or you are generally working with a subject as a subject leader on English or maths, or you've got the special educational needs area to develop as that is your kind of role, so you're the special educational needs coordinator, you then get a bit of extra time out of class as well. That's because those roles require so much extra work. So if you've got writing or English, you've got maths, you're the SEN special educational needs coordinator, you've got a lot of work to do, and it's something that is constantly happening, it's constantly progressing, constantly moving forward. You need to keep on top of it all the time. Geography and computing, for example, as subjects, they are very, very important, and I love the subject, but they're the kind of subjects where you can keep up to date with things pretty easily, and when developments do come in and you want to change things up, one afternoon a term or one day a term is enough to kind of keep up to date and get stuff in place. However, those other subjects, English, maths, special educational needs, they're things that you really, really need to have the time to focus on. So generally, you'll have another 10% of time out of class for that. So at that point, you'll be having 20% of time out of class each week, same way you would in your first year, just because you've got all the extra work to focus on. And as we were saying just now, that doesn't mean that it's any easier for those teachers, because they then have to make sure that that extra lesson is planned for in a way that can be covered easily every single week. So it's a little bit of extra time, and then they have all the added work on top of that, which is why you can get something called a TLR for those subjects. If you're not sure what that is, I'll try and link a video up there where I've explained about pay scales and TLRs and that kind of thing. So go over watch that and I'll explain in a bit more detail there. But that does mean you have a bit of extra time out of class. Now, apart from that, I did mention earlier you can have some CPD sessions. So in my school especially, but I know in lots of other schools nearby that I've spoken to, they have a lot of what's called CPD, or Central Professional Development. And this just means that you are developing yourself professionally. You're developing yourself as a teacher. These sessions are really, really valuable. They're so important to make sure you're keeping up to date with current affairs and what's going on in the world of education, keeping up to date with your subjects. So obviously for me, geography and computing, making sure I know what's changing with those, what kind of new ideas I can keep adding into our curriculum to make sure it's still up to scratch and doing really well for the children that are learning from it, and to make sure that I'm keeping it connected with other schools. So much of teaching is communicating with other schools and other teachers and getting ideas from them. And when you go and have one of these sessions, you can sit for 2 hours and just talk about teaching geography or teaching computing, and you're not distracted by the general kind of day-to-day things of life that you have to do in a school, by the general day-to-day things of life that you have to do in a school, and it can be really, really useful. So these CPD sessions are great. Now, these aren't kind of a regular thing that happen. They generally will happen here and there during a term. You might have 3 or 4 across a term that you go and do, and maybe a couple after school as well. So they are a bit of added time, and it's not necessarily always time out of class, but when they do happen, they're really valuable and they're really, really useful 99% of the time. So do make sure, if you do have any opportunities to book onto one of those sessions, then get booked onto it. Do it as quickly as you can, because you'll learn a lot, you'll hear from other teachers, and it'll be really, really useful. So the final thing about teaching is it's one of those jobs where you can't book time out of class. So it's not a job where you want to go on holiday and say, oh, well, I want to book a holiday in the middle of half term and I'll just book a week off, or go on holiday and then come back. That's because all our holidays follow the school system, which in one side is fantastic because we do get a lot of holiday. 13 weeks off a year is more than majority of people working get, probably twice as much, maybe even 3 times as much as that. So we are very, very lucky to get the number of holidays, but you don't get holidays during the school year. You have to book your holidays during the academic year. You can't book time out. However, one thing that some schools have started doing, including mine, ever since COVID happened and we had all the lockdowns and there was a lot of kind of realization on the pressures on teachers and the pressures touches on school staff and mental health and keeping all that going, which I'm a big advocate for. I really encourage everyone to kind of look after their mental health and get outside and go and do things you enjoy when you can. A lot of things some schools are doing now are called Wellbeing days, and that's where you can book a day out of class, out of school, to have for yourself, for your own well-being. Now, it is only one day a year, which might not sound like much, but just having that freedom and that flexibility to have one day where you can say, actually, I'm going to finish on a Thursday that week, I'm going to have a Friday off to spend time with my family or to go and do something, have a long weekend away somewhere. Having that flexibility is really, really useful. So you can kind of class that as a little bit of extra time out of class if your school does it. And again, it's a good question to ask if you're going for an interview, to ask them, what does your school do for teacher well-being? What does it do for staff well-being? How do you support staff? And hopefully they'll offer all these ideas about things they do or they want to do, and you can kind of join in with that, and it'll be really, really good. And if not, then maybe you think, actually, is this the right place for me if they don't value teachers' well-being as highly as they should? So yeah, a well-being day it's only a small thing, and it doesn't always fix everything, but it's something where, again, they're showing they value you as a person, they value you as a teacher, and they were willing to give you that time out of class if you can get it covered and sorted, which, yeah, I really, really like it. It's just it's a small thing, but it helps out a lot. So that, in a nutshell, is the amount of time you get out of class as a teacher. Now, this does vary massively, and I know I've said a lot of things here that you might not understand, or you might not fully realise how it all works if you're not actually a teacher at the minute. So do let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. But hopefully this all made sense, and you're looking forward to the next video every Tuesday, every Friday, and every Sunday, and I'll see you very soon.